There are horror movies that scare you, and then there are horror movies that create a character you recognize from just one silhouette. A black habit, a pale face,
Faith is nothing when darkness calls.
and two terrifying eyes. That is the norm.
I've been waiting.
But what if I told you that the demon wasn't supposed to become the star of our own movie? Today we are going behind the scene of The Nun, how Valak was created, how the filmmakers were able to build that terrifying world, challenges they faced while shooting in Romania, and what Valak actually wanted, and how the demon was defeated. And the biggest question of all time, was Valak really defeated? One, how did the idea for the Nun even start? The interesting thing is that the Nun wasn't born from a completely new horror idea. She was born from a character that audience had already seen. James Wan and his team had introduced Valak in the Conjuring 2, and the audience reaction was strong enough to turn the terrifying image into an entire movie. But now they had a problem. How do you take a character who was frightening because you barely understood her and build an entire story behind her? So, let's get down to the story. The year is 1952. Inside a remote abbey, something has gone terribly wrong. A young nun has apparently taken her own life. The Vatican sends Father Bouquet to investigate. And because this isn't an ordinary investigation, he is accompanied by a young nun named Irene. They also met a French-Canadian farmer known as Frenchie. But when they arrived at the abbey, they discovered something much worse than a dead nun. Something has been living underneath that place. Something that was never supposed to escape. Something called Valak. So, what was Valak? According to the film mythology, the abbey wasn't originally just a convent. It had a much darker history. The film says that the castle was built during the Dark Ages by the Duke of St. Cata, an aristocrat obsessed with occult practices. He summoned a demonic entity through a rift beneath the castle. Christian knights eventually killed the dog and sealed the rift using a veil associated with the blood of Christ. But centuries later, World War II bombings reopened the rift and Valak escaped. And this is what makes Valak different from a normal movie monster. She isn't easily looking for revenge. Her goal was to escape. The abbey is essentially a prison, and the war has accidentally opened the door. Valak now wants to cross completely into the human world, and the people inside the abbey are standing between her and freedom, and the nuns were already fighting her. Irene believes she is meeting a group of living nuns, but eventually she discovers something terrifying. The nuns have already been dead. The film reveals that they were essentially visions created around the abbey's final surviving run, Sister Victoria. The sisters were continuously praying because their prayers helped keep Valak contained. They weren't protecting Irene, they were protecting the world from Valak.
Hello.
How was the movie filmed? Like, how were they able to come up with all those shots? How they made it so scary, the camera movements and all that. How was it achieved? So the movie was actually filmed in Romania. So locations included Cavan Castle, Beten Castle, the Capitan Mountains, Place of Parliament in Bucharest. The Place of Parliament was used for Vatican interiors. Principal photography began in May 2017 and wrapped after roughly 38 days. And this is one of the reasons why the Nun looks the way it does. They didn't need to completely invent a terrifying world. They actually found one. Romania gave the filmmakers castles, stone corridors, mountains, cemetery, and centuries-old architectures. Instead of building everything inside the studio, they used a location that already looks like a nightmare.
Catholic standpoint, the idea of something that you hold really sacred could be
The
perverted.
cameras and how they created fear. They zoom in, they zoom out, the wide angles and everything, how it all created fear. One wide shot, put the character tiny inside a huge environment. Why? Because the audience start looking at the darkness around them. Two, slow push in. Camera slowly move towards the character, like that creates this fear, and that's the point. The audience starts thinking that something is coming behind. 3. Negative space. Leave a huge dark area beside the character. Don't show the monster. Let the audience search for it. 4. Long takes. Don't cut so quickly. Make the audience uncomfortable. So this brings us to the actual demon design. How was this demon designed? Valak was played by Bruni Arians, who reprised the role from The Conjuring 2. The important thing isn't the makeup, it's the silhouette, the black habit, white, pale face, dark eyes, tall unnatural presence. That means you can recognize Valak from a distance. And that's excellent character horror design. And this brings us to the production. Actually, the production wasn't perfect. There's always challenges. Even a 22 million Hollywood horror movies doesn't go exactly according to plan. They now went through additional photography and reshoots. And that's something people don't always realize about filmmaking. And this brings us to the creepy story from the set. So while filming in Romania, director Corin Hardy said he noticed what appeared to be a handprint in a dust on set. So was it supernatural? Probably not. So imagine you're directing a movie of a demonic nun inside an old Romanian location, and then you suddenly discover a mysterious handprint. Yeah, I would probably go home. That would be the best thing to do at that moment. So how Valak was defeated. Was Valak actually defeated? The character discovered that the blood of Christ can be used close to the reef. Irene eventually becomes possessed. Frenchie uses the blood to free her, but Valak attacked again. Irene is dragged underwater. And here is the clever part. She has kept some of the blood in her mouth. She spits it into Valak's face, and the demon is banished and the reef is sealed. And here comes the twist. Frenchie isn't actually safe. Valak has possessed him. So, did they actually defeat Valak? Typically, yes, they banished the demon and sealed the reef, but they didn't completely destroy the evil, because Frenchie, the man who helped save Irene, walks away carrying Valak with him, and suddenly everything makes sense. The Noir wasn't just telling us how Valak came from, it was showing us how Valak eventually reached the Warrens, and that is where the story connects directly back to The Conjuring. And that's what actually makes the Noir interesting. The demon wasn't defeated, it was transferred.